Hunter David's got a good golf cart and a nice set of clubs, I would use those.
Dave's not good.
That was on the house.
Just saying.
I'll do it again sometime.
Do it today.
No.
Even if you don't use it, I would just go take his,
Me and him are-
club head cover.
I didn't even touch that.
I know, but it's funny, the fact that he thinks you did, so now I would just, every time I went to the golf course,
I told him I
steal a
should.
random club head cover.
I know, I told him, I swore on the Bible that I didn't touch it, and he still doesn't believe me.
If I knew where his card house was, I might go steal a club head cover.
Yeah. No, I told him, he must have been at practice or something. I said, I'm taking your golf cart. I need to open it, so that was on me. Me and Mark did.
Today, handful of notes, tomorrow, handful of notes, Wednesday, handful of notes, Thursday, Friday, review / presentations. Monday, test. So a week from today, final test.
Done for the day.
What's that?
Done for the year.
Pretty much. Tuesday, if you need extra credit,
Can we bring like a PlayStation in here and play video games on Tuesday?
no.
We used to be able to do that.
Cool. Then you can go back to whoever that guy was. and
What
see if
about,
he wants to do it.
what about like a Wii?
No,
Why?
Mr. Miller, we can play Wii Sports with you.
we couldn't.
Yeah, so let us.
We can play PlayStation with me too.
Why don't we do that?
Wii's more fun. Or like an old Atari or something.
I have one of those.
Same.
Bring it.
I don't know.
Part of history.
It is.
That's actually a semi-valid point. I'll give you a half a point for that. If you need extra credit,
You just
come
gotta
talk
have
to
a club.
me by the end of tomorrow. I should say, if you'd like extra
Let's
credit,
play Wii Sports for extra.
we'll set up something where you can do something for Wednesday or Tuesday, of the following week after we take our
How
flight.
far away on, like, point percentage to the next grade do we have to be to,
You gotta be within a couple points. Like if you got a 72 right now and you'd like a B, ain't happening. If you got a 77, I can probably generate enough things for you to do that will actually raise that. But realistically, before that happens, I would take a look back at what your test scores are and see if that's the easiest way to get there. You know what I mean? But if you're within 2-3 points, we can make it work. So you got Russian Federation. Last time we talked about Gorbachev. They attempted a military coup. Shortly after the military coup, Gorbachev resigned, and the guy over there on the right took over. His name is Boris Yeltsin. Boris Yeltsin was the first president of Russia. The Communist Party dissolved, and they had a big thing that they went around and tore all the statues down from their former leaders. Seems to be a thing. Also in December '91, most of the republics of the Soviet Union declared their independence. So you got the Ukraine, Georgia, Armenia, Azerbaijan, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, Belarus, Moldova, Kazakhstan, and Kyrgyzstan. There's a lot of stands. For your test, you're probably going to have to know a handful of stands. But all those little republics that made up the Russian border all declared independence. Now, a handful of them, Russia wasn't too fond of them declaring their independence, so even within the last couple, 2-3 years, they kind of go in there and say, hey, we'd like to have you back. They don't ask that nice. I mean, when you show up at somebody's door with a tank, that's really not asking. But this has been an ongoing issue for the Russian Federation. So 91, Chechnya declared its independent, and Russia said, nice try. We're not going to allow you to leave. And then 1994, war broke out between Russia and Chechnya. Lasted for 2 years. After the war was over, there's still been fighting, car bombs, buildings blown up, people killed over the next 10, 15 years. Russia let some of them go, didn't let others go. After some of them declared their independence, Russia tried to take it back. Russia and Ukraine are constantly battling each other. There's a handful of issues within the Russian Federation.
Can you go back?
Again, sorry, Michael. Two years after he took office, the communists again tried to regain control of the government. He was able to block that attempt, and he stayed the president until December 31st of 1999. So he served 8 years as president of Russia. During this time, after the Soviet Union broke up and all these places declared independence and the Berlin Wall fell, Russia and the United States, their relationship, not a lot of like huge things happened because Russia was trying to take care of their own issues. Then in 2000, this guy became president, Vladimir Putin. In 2020, he's still the president. Now, he did take like a 4 to 6 year break in there where he became the chancellor of Russia and another guy was the president, but he's been in control. The only reason he took a step back is because of the way the Russian law is, you can only serve so many consecutive terms as president. But he's the guy that's in charge. We're not going to talk about Yugoslavia. So the one thing we will talk about is as the Russian Federation started to break up, there started to become new countries being formed. As communism started to break up and the communist control ended, more and more countries start to break up. So the new country that started to become independent and sovereign nation was Kosovo. During the 1990s, Kosovo was ruled by a guy by the name of Slobodan Milosevic. And as he took over, he started to kill a whole bunch of people. So the last thing we'll talk about today is East Germany. After they built the wall in East Germany, after they built the wall in Berlin, tensions were fairly high. In 1953, East German workers went on strike, rioted. The Soviet Union, when they took over East Germany, just wanted to make sure that they had all the things that East Germany could offer. They wanted all the industry, all the natural resources. They weren't really concerned with the people. The Soviet Union made them work longer and didn't give them any more pay. And the Soviet Union's main way of dealing with people who displease them is they send a whole bunch of army people there with tanks. Typically, if you show up with AK-47s and tanks, people stop complaining as much. By 1959, so about 15 years after the war, West Germany had finally fully recovered economically from the war. They had been able to rebuild their army. They had added nuclear weapons. And East Germans started to migrate to West Germany. Now, realistically, the only way they could get to West Germany is through Berlin. As the rest of the borders around Germany had been sealed off. So there's what the Berlin Wall looked like. You can see there was the wall there was an area in between, there was guard towers. So it's not like you could just hop over a wall and run through there. You had to hop over a wall, get by the guard towers, and then hop over another wall. So Russia built the Berlin Wall in '61. 1,700 people a day crossed into West Berlin before the wall was completed. So as they started building the wall, it sped up the amount of people that were trying to leave communist-controlled East Germany. You can see there the wall was 26 miles long, 15 feet high, and topped with electric fence. So before the wall was completed, you had about 1,700 people a day crossing. After the wall was completed, in the next 30 years, only about 5,000 people were able to make it across the wall and into West Germany. So the wall was fairly effective. The other thing that was unique about the wall, or not necessarily unique, but one of the things that you got to take into consideration is the fact that the city of Berlin was the capital of Germany, and the Germans didn't decide to be communist or not communist. They just drew a line randomly and say, okay, this is the communist side and this is the non-communist side. And it's one of those deals where you might live in one side of town and your parents might live in the other side of town and your sister or your brother or whomever. So the wall literally just separated families from each other. And a lot of people that tried to cross over the wall and get around it were those type of people. You can see there the last stat is 140 people were killed by the guards at the wall for trying to illegally cross over into West Berlin. Then in 1989, as the Soviet Union was dealing with a handful of other problems, they allowed the Berlin Wall